Whether we like it or not, The Ultimate Fighter is going to happen again this year because the UFC have not said that it's not going to happen, and it happens pretty much every year. A new season of The Ultimate Fighter. Now, I personally believe that the show has completely fallen off because it's just an old, outdated format, but I think with the right coaches and the right theme to the show, it can come back once again. They tried to do it with McGregor versus Chandler, but in today's video, I'm going to take you guys through some options on who could be the coaches for the next season of The Ultimate Fighter. And I guess we're going to start with this one. I've got many good options for coaches on this. I've got about 7 options for who I believe could be the new coaches of the next Ultimate Fighter. And they vary in terms of how effective they're going to be at saving the show and bringing in any kind of viewership whatsoever. So I thought in today's video, we're just going to go through all of the potential coaches and settle on what I believe should be the next season of The Ultimate Fighter. This is what I think they're going to do. Now, I've got some amazing options for people that could be coaches for The Ultimate Fighter. But this is what I know they're going to do. I don't know why they're going to do it. It makes zero sense to do it. But I think the UFC are going to, because Whittaker versus Gastelum made no sense as coaches of The Ultimate Fighter. No sense whatsoever, Whittaker versus Gastelum. Volkanovski versus Ortega barely made any sense, and it was just all forced the entire episode, or the entire season. And they've also done stuff like, I think they did Amanda Nunes versus Pena as well, or something along those lines. And just some of the coaches that they choose make no sense whatsoever. But I could see them doing this because regardless of what happens in terms of viewership, they're going to have The Ultimate Fighter. And in their mind, they maybe could save money on making it between Raquel Pennington and Juliana Pena. And also in their mind, they could say, well, this is to like build up the new bantamweight division because, you know, a lot of people don't see it as a good division right now. Raquel Pennington's champion. If they just put Pennington versus Pena on a regular UFC pay-per-view card, it's going to get overlooked and no one's really going to care about it. But if they give it its own show, maybe they spit at each other, maybe they pull each other's hair. Then all of a sudden there's a little bit of animosity there and we can build up a bit of a storyline for a title fight while we bring in Kayla Harrison into the women's bantamweight division and try and implement her into the game and make it a bit more interesting as things move forward. But this is unfortunately a candidate for coaches on The Ultimate Fighter. Raquel Pennington, Juliana Pena, but this would be probably women's divisions, which we kind of need right now. But I think in terms of The Ultimate Fighter, you've got to guarantee absolutely banging fights. And I just feel like with women's divisions, you're getting off to the wrong foot. You know what I mean? You're getting off on the wrong foot. I think like a men's featherweight, a men's bantamweight, a men's lightweight. These are the divisions we're looking for. We move on to coaches that I think I would love to have as coaches of The Ultimate Fighter. Colby Covington versus Ian Garry. Need I say more? Now, important to note here, I've kept these candidates based on the schedule of The Ultimate Fighter. Now, The Ultimate Fighter last year started in May, so it's not that long away. But I'm trying to think scheduling-wise, 3 months after the show starts in May, these people could be fighting in August. You know what I'm saying? May, June, July, August. These people could be fighting each other in August on a big pay-per-view card, maybe around then on the summer. In the summer, sorry. And I think one of the candidates are Ian Garry and Colby Covington, because Covington is probably going to be looking to come back sometime soon. I think he would jump at the opportunity for The Ultimate Fighter with Ian Garry because it's just so much ability for him to potentially gain back a fan base, go after Ian Garry, get under Ian Garry's skin. I think Colby Covington would be one of the fighters that would benefit most from having the ability to be coexisting around his opponent for so long before the fights begin. So I think Colby Covington would jump at this opportunity. It's also a way for Covington to make money that doesn't involve fighting in a cage, which seems to be the way he likes to make his money these days because he barely fights. And Ian Garry just won against Jeff Neal, went to a decision. If they were to say, hey, Ian Garry versus Colby Covington, you know, it's starting in May, I reckon that would work with Ian Garry's schedule. And maybe, just maybe, if McGregor's coming back, we've heard it's not going to be in June. We don't know if it's going to be in July. It could be in August that McGregor comes back. I hope it's not in August. I hope it's a lot earlier than that. But this could be a great way to have the McGregor card and also build another fight on the card by using the Ultimate Fighter in Ian Garry and Colby Covington as coaches. This would be a good division to have as well. The welterweight division would be good. Maybe the lightweights as well. Maybe welterweight to middleweights. Who knows what way they want to go about it. But I just know this season would be full of viral clips of both guys trying to fight each other, of Ian Garry trying to confront Covington backstage over some stuff he said in front of everyone, and Covington constantly chucking out little digs at Ian Garry for being a CUCK, and I can't say it on YouTube or I get demonetized, but still. Yeah, Ian Garry, Colby Covington. I think it would be a great season. I think there'd be a bunch of viral moments. I think there'd be a heated trash talk moment or two on the show as well. And I also think it'd be good to see not just Ian Garry coaching, but Covington coaching. I think Covington would do good as a coach. And I think people would see a different side to Covington, of course. And that's always the thing with Covington. People always say, there's a different side to him. And I can already see there being like a YouTube short of Colby Covington pouring his heart out to one of his people that he's training and telling him to believe in himself and, you know, to have the right mindset, and he believes in his teammate or whatever. And I can already see the comments like, see, this is the side of Covington you don't see. ESPN MMA, YouTube short, TikTok, wherever they want to put it, the side of Colby Covington you don't see. Certain 100,000 views, easy, it writes itself. We move on. If not Ian Garry versus Colby Covington, for whatever reason, and if they really do just absolutely fumble it that badly, there's other options, okay? Someone else that's going to be returning soon, maybe around July or August, but probably around June. Maybe they could do the Ultimate Fighter in April and push it ahead a little bit this year. This writes itself. And you know what you could do on this? Africa versus New Zealand / Australia. The rugby history is there. Between the two of them, the Springboks and the All Blacks. There's beef in other sports between those two sets of nations. I know it's weird to bundle Australia and New Zealand into one, but I just think it would be good to do all African talent, mainly from South Africa, though, for Dricus du Plessis. And then, you know, you could have New Zealand and Australia combined with South Africa and some other African countries as well. I just think this is a recipe for amazingness on The Ultimate Fighter. Both guys will get paid. Both guys will be in the spotlight. It'd build up their title fight, because I don't want this title fight to be something where it gets announced 7 weeks away, we get a press conference the week of, and then that's it, the fight happens. This is a fight that requires some level of build. You know what I mean? It really does, because you're not going to get a storyline like this coming around too often. You know what I mean? This is a very rare opportunity to sell a super fight, and I think the Ultimate Fighter might be the way to go about it. And you've got Dricus du Plessis, who has a gym in Team CIT that has talent in the gym looking to get their way into the UFC. I mean, they've got Mark Hume, who performed in front of Dana White's looking for a fight. In Canada, he won his fight by decision. I'm not sure if he got signed, but he even said in his post-fight interview, I'd like to come on The Ultimate Fighter and prove my worth, and I'll do what it takes and all this type of stuff. So maybe they could build a show. Dricus could have his boy Mark Hume on the show as well. And that would be an incentive for why Dricus would want to take on the opportunity to coach the show, because he'd actually be actively giving his fighter a much better chance of getting into the UFC by going through the show. So that could bait Dricus in. If he didn't want to normally, that could bait him in. And for Israel Adesanya, I mean, this would just be a way to sort of milk the potential last fight of his career. Because if he loses this one, I just don't see Adesanya being the type of guy to be like, okay, give me Jack Hermansson to bounce back, and then I'll win another 2 in a row, and then I'll get a title shot. Like, I think Adesanya's sort of under the condition of, if I'm not the best, I'm not involved. You know what I mean? So that's sort of his mindset, I would believe. So this would be a good way to entice him back in, get him paid, get him back in shape. And I'm sure Adesanya would want the opportunity. I'm just going to say it right now. If they do Africa versus New Zealand and Australia, I bet you anything, if there's a couple Nigerian-looking guys on Dricus' team of Team Africa, which would really bother Israel Adesanya, by the way, just thinking about that. Can you imagine? Dricus is the coach of Team Africa, and Adesanya has to be the coach of what? Team China or something? Like, that would already be a little bit of a situation where there would already be a lot of dispute between the two of them, and both of them may be going after each other. But I could so see a clip where Adesanya, and I'm just going to call it how it is, notices a couple Africans on Dricus' team and says, which one of you guys would rather be on my team? Put your hands up now. And then there's like two Nigerian Olajides fucking sticking their hands up like, you know, I would rather be on your team. You know how BJ Penn did Sean Shirk? If you remember that very old episode of The Ultimate Fighter where he said, if any of you guys would rather be on my team and not Sean Shirk's team, put your hands up now. And like most of them put them up. I could see a situation like that where Adesanya tries to sort of, yeah, who's the real African now, bitch? Huh? And I could see it getting really heated on the show. So this would be good for views, for beef, for drama, for talent in terms of regional locations of the world, like we've been with the US, looking for Ultimate Fighter talent. They're all old men. The Europe, they don't really do the Ultimate Fighter. Europeans typically don't do the Ultimate Fighter unless there's like a European guy. But this is my point, right? You kind of need that representative of a geographical area of talent in order to justify that geographical area of talent being brought into the show. So if you wanted to do Europe versus US, you'd have to have like Tom Aspinall, John Jones as the coaches of the Ultimate Fighter. They won't do that, but for Dricus and Adesanya, you could do African talent versus New Zealand, Australian talent, maybe some Chinese guys in there as well. Who knows? But that's what I would do. I think this would be a recipe for success, and I think it would build the animosity for their fight massively. We move on. Sean Strickland versus Khamzat Chimaev. This would be huge. This would be huge. And you're not really holding up a division to make this happen. With Dricus du Plessis and Israel Adesanya and some of the other options that I had, maybe it's a bit of a delay for them. They're delaying their career a little bit. I know Khamzat Chimaev would probably want to be more active, but he's got Ramadan in April, so I doubt he's going to fight until, earliest June, maybe the Saudi Arabia card, which still gives some time. But if you want to delay it to late April, August, around that time, while you've got Adesanya du Plessis maybe happening in June, you could have the Ultimate Fighter running as that title fight is building up itself, and this could be Sean Strickland versus Khamzat Chimaev. What's not to like here? Strickland, Team USA versus Khamzat Chimaev, Team Sweden, or I don't know what team Khamzat Chimaev would be, but Team Dagestan, you know what I mean? Team Cliffside versus Team USA for Sean Strickland. I would just love to see these two go at each other, because I know there'd be I could literally see a situation where they agree to hard spar each other on TUF, and that's like a whole thing, and Dana comes running in, yep, hold on now, you know what I mean? Everybody calm the fuck down, you know? He's trying to separate it. Nobody's doing any hard sparring here, okay? Wait till you fucking fight. I can see Dana sprinting in. Yep. Trying to interrupt everything. Both of these guys like, come on, man, let's fucking jump in a fucking cage. Let's do the fucking man dance. I could so see Strickland doing that shit. Asking Khamzat to hard spar with him. Whole situation going down like that. They'd have a bunch of shit talk amongst each other. They've trained each other before, and Khamzat allegedly, according to Khamzat and Sean Strickland and the schmo who watched it happen, allegedly Khamzat submitted him multiple times, so you know that would bring up some beef and drama. And I just think this would be a good idea for a show, because it'd be interesting to, one, humanize Khamzat Chimaev a little bit. His recent performances have humanized him a little bit as well, because he hasn't been as dominant as before. But I think it'd be good to see how Khamzat does as a coach. It's always good to see that other side. It's like if you saw Pereira being a really good coach. It's like, oh, look, there's some glimmer of humanity to this, you know, stoic creature, you know? And then Sean Strickland, I just think he'd be a hilarious coach and just hilarious in general. And would be probably starting, Roman candle fights like he was doing with Nina Drama. Like, you could bring people into the show. And I think that's another good idea. Bringing people into the show is a great thing to do. Like, I could see Ian Garry just calling up Masvidal and saying, hey, Masvidal, you want to come on the show just to get on Covington's nerves? And then Masvidal walks in one episode. You know what I mean? And Covington's like, oh, shit, here we go. And then you get a clip between them. It's always good to bring in a guest coach. And you could bring in Chris Curtis. For Khamzat Chimaev, you could, I don't know what friends he has in the sport, but Garam Kutsteledzi maybe? I don't even know, but that would be a great episode of TUF as well, a great season of TUF. We move on. Ilia Topuria versus Sean O'Malley. it just writes itself. You know, Ilia Topuria just fought, just won. Sean O'Malley is fighting soon against Marlon Vera. I understand I'm massively overlooking Marlon Vera here to make these potential matchups happen. But Ilia Topuria, Sean O'Malley is an amazing matchup. And the greatest part about this is, again, remember when I said about bringing in like guest coaches? You know how certain fighters bring in like another fighter that's on the roster that trains with them that they know of. You know, McGregor even brought in Wonderboy for some reason. Like, you can bring in a fighter to TUF if they're in the area. And I can so imagine if O'Malley goes up to fight Ilia Topuria after beating Vera, if he does, fingers crossed if he does, and Ilia accepts to fight against Sean O'Malley, which I do see them making, by the way. One, I can see them being coaches on The Ultimate Fighter, as you can see. But two, as soon as O'Malley plans on moving up, I can see the narrative of he's ducking Merab, wants no business with Merab Dvalishvili, just wants the free title fight against Ilia Topuria. I can already see this stuff about him ducking and running from Merab. And Ilia Topuria and Merab are really good friends, both Georgian. Ilia could just be like, I brought the guest coach in today. And in comes Merab through the gym doors of The Ultimate Fighter. And Sean O'Malley's like, oh shit, dude, here we go. And Merab starts going at him and trying to snatch his jacket off of him, you know. I could see some clips being made from that. I think both of these guys would start a bit of trash talk with each other. And I think Ilia would suit this show. Because he would know, let's start some shit. You know what I mean? Because that's what Ilia was basically doing in the build-up to the Volkanovski fight. He single-handedly sold that Volk fight. I know Volk did his thing as well with the old man stuff, and that did help, but it was mainly spawned because of Ilia putting it all on the line and making it like either a humiliating or amazing moment for himself if he did pull it off or lose. So I think Ilia would seize the advantage of being on TUF. And the also good thing about Ilia Topuria is it's easy to have this air in different regions and languages. O'Malley and Ilia Topuria, listen, O'Malley's going to be subtitled for Spanish speakers, but you could just record the show once. Ilia could speak sometimes in Spanish to his team. Who knows? You know, subtitle it. It's like a translatable show if you have someone who speaks another language. And I could see them doing like a voiceover narration. You know how they cut to fighters sitting in a chair and they say what happened that day and stuff like that. They could just do one take in English with Ilia and then one take in Spanish. And it'd be a very translatable show to a Spanish market, so it could even reach more people. So I think Ilia Topuria and Sean O'Malley would be an amazing season of The Ultimate Fighter. Another season I'm not too fond of, but I could see them doing John Jones, Stipe Miocic. I don't think they should do this. I think this would flop in terms of numbers that it would bring in. But they could do it at the end of the day. They could do this. I would love to see Tom Aspinall, as soon as he hears this is happening, fly over to Vegas, go to the UFCPI and storm John Jones's gym in the middle of one of his sparring sessions or training sessions and just sort of like be walking around the PI and sort of clash with John Jones and, you know, see him in person and have a bit of a moment where they square up with each other and Aspinall fucking absolutely mogs John Jones's fat old man self at this point. But I think John Jones, Stipe Miocic is a potential candidate for The Ultimate Fighter. I just don't think it'd be fun whatsoever. I don't think there'd be any trash talk or anything fun like that, any like massive bust-ups or pushing and shoving matches. But at the end of the day, Jones and Stipe doesn't sell itself. Like, on status and credentials, maybe it does, but they could do with a little bit of a help with The Ultimate Fighter. And I just think it makes sense because Jones is allegedly injured, even though he's walking around just fine, rugby tackling people and all that. He's allegedly injured when it means fighting Tom Aspinall. So I think this would be a perfect way to sort of give Jones something active and involved in the sport to do while he recovers from his pectoral tear. We move on. Just at the end, I don't think they're going to do this. I hope they don't do it. But Alexa Grasso versus Zhang Weili. It's a super fight. It's a once-in-a-decade type level women's MMA fight, in my opinion. Especially if Grasso like beats Valentina Shevchenko soon, in like May or April, and then they book this afterwards if Zhang Weili wins against Yan Xiaonan as well at UFC 300. I think this is a great fight to do. It'd be a super fight. Both of them would be huge names. This would be one of the biggest women's fights of all times. Both number 1 pound for pound, number 2 pound for pound super fight. And I think it would be sort of undervalued a little bit if it was just put on a regular card. So maybe they could do an Ultimate Fighter episode with these two. I don't think it'd be that fun, but I could see them doing it to try and give a bit more value to the super fight that is Alexa Grasso, Zhang Weili. So What do I think they're going to do? Unfortunately, this. What would I love them to do? Dricus du Plessis Adesanya, Sean O'Malley, Ilia Topuria, Ian Garry, Colby Covington, which I doubt because neither of them are champs. They're both contenders. Maybe that would help because it wouldn't be holding up a division then as a champion of being on a show for 3 months and then a couple weeks after that you defend and then you got to wait another 5 months. So, listen, it's this or Leon versus Bilal. So, fingers crossed it's one of these 4, I guess, is what we're going to go with. But I reckon I'm telling you it's going to be this. See you later. Goodbye. Thank you for watching. Toodle pip. Let me know who you think should coach TUF. Because it's going to happen. Even though it's a dead show, they're going to do TUF again. They're going to keep doing TUF. So you might as well at least try and make it fun. Goodbye.